Users of Inductive Automation's Ignition SCADA can integrate a variety of different process hardware available using a selection of native drivers, as well as OPC UA or DA connections to other data servers, with drivers available for other hardware types not supported by a built-in driver. OmniServer is a user-configurable OPC UA and DA server that allows users to create custom protocols using device manufacturer documentation detailing the communications protocol, all without having to write custom code. In this video, we will walk through how to connect Ignition as an OPC UA client to the OmniServer for integrating TPI vibration monitors, which are used for measuring and monitoring the vibrational forces industrial equipment generates, and for predictive maintenance to help with avoiding downtime due to unexpected equipment failure. So Software Toolbox has an OmniServer solution pack called OmniServer for TPI that includes pre-configured protocols for TPI 9034 and 9038 vibration monitors. In this example, I'll be using the protocol for my TPI 9034 vibration monitor device, and we'll be integrating the data from that monitor with Ignition SCADA. Here in my OmniServer, I go to the protocol section. I already have my protocols imported for both the 9034 and the 9038 TPI vibration monitors. The 9034 being a 4-channel and the 9038 being an 8-channel. So I already have those protocols as part of my TPI solution pack for OmniServer. So my first step is going to be to configure an Ethernet device. So I'm going to go to the devices section. Right click New Ethernet device. And I need this to be a TCP type connection. I'm going to put in the IP address of my TPI monitor. And port. And the TCP port for these devices defaults to 9764. And then I'm going to click the Save button to save my Ethernet device. You see that the device is now created. Now next I need to create a new topic that's going to use both the Ethernet device I just created and the TPI 934 protocol. So if we go to the topic section, right click New Topic. I'm just going to call my topic TPI underscore data for simplicity. And select the TPI 934 protocol from the other protocols, and I'm going to select the Ethernet device that I just created. And I'm going to click Save. Now to see what items I have available for accessing that protocol, I can just go back to the protocol section and double click on that protocol to open it up in the visual protocol record. And if I go to the items list here, these are all the items that are available for access with this protocol from my TPI vibration. I'm actually interested in total G-value, one of the total G-value values. Specifically, I'm going to be looking at channel 2, because it should be providing some vibrational changing data that we can monitor from Ignition. And these items will be available for browsing from Ignition later, and I'll be able to select it from there. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of the protocol. So with my OmniServer set up to collect TPI vibration data, I next just need to double check my OPC UA settings in OmniServer to confirm the parameters needed in setting up my Ignition UA client connection to OmniServer. Now, for the purposes of this video, my OmniServer UA server is already configured with my desired endpoint and security. I will link you to a full tutorial video in this recording that walks through full details of the OmniServer OPC UA server settings. So if I go to my clients section in the OmniServer configuration, double click on OPC UA, that brings up the OPC UA configuration, and there's the endpoint that I'm going to be connecting to from Ignition. And for those not familiar with OPC UA, an OPC UA endpoint for a server is used by OPC UA clients like Ignition to connect to OmniServer, and each endpoint has its own unique properties, including the security that it supports. So I'm going to go ahead and double click to open this particular endpoint, which is going to be the one that I'm going to be connecting to. And you can see here displayed underneath the port, you can see the URL for that endpoint, which consists of the standard UA prefix of opc.tcp:// followed by the machine name where my OmniServer is installed, then a colon, and then the port. which is specified here, and that defaults to 27730, but is configurable as needed. This endpoint is available for local or remote connections if Ignition were to happen to be located on a different machine from OmniServer. But that's also, you can also change that to be local only in the event that you want this server to only be accessible by local clients. So if we go to the certificate tab, you can see we're using a self-issued certificate, which OmniServer installs with its own self-signed certificate. Although OmniServer does fully support using security certificates from third-party certificate authorities, such as VeriSign. Under the security section, OmniServer supports the latest encryption methods, and all those are enabled by default. From Ignition, we'll be using basic 256 SHA-256 with sign and encryption for this demo. You can see that's enabled, so it would be good to select that when we configure it. Now, the client certificate section is where any certificates are listed for OPCUA clients that connect to OmniServer. We'll be coming back to this section after our first connection from Ignition, as there is one additional step that will be necessary to trust Ignition's certificate. So now I can move on and go ahead and close out of these settings because I don't need to make any changes there. So now I can move on to the Ignition configuration. So I'm going to bring up my browser. And in my Ignition gateway configuration, I first need to go to the OPC client section. So I'm going to config. If I scroll down, I need to go to OPC client, OPC connections. And I just need to create a new OPC connection. So I'm going to click create new OPC connection. I'm going to keep the default of OPC UA. And I'm going to go and click next. Then for the endpoint, I need to enter the endpoint that we just saw from the OmniServer UA configuration. OPC.tcp //tv-tv-2730. Then I can go ahead and click next. This is the OPCUA server. You can see that corresponds to OmniServer. UA OmniServer app, not machine name. So I can go ahead and click next. And all the available security options are listed for my OmniServer endpoint. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and select basic 256, SHA-256, sign and encrypt. That is the most secure option. And I can scroll down slightly, and then I can go ahead and click next. Now here we can review the information about OmniServer's security certificate, and Ignition gives me the option to go ahead and trust the certificate that OmniServer is using. So I am going to go ahead, because I do want to trust that, and save us a step later. I'm going to go ahead and select yes for that, and then go ahead and click next. And here we can review the selections that we previously entered, and go ahead and click finish to complete. So now I can finish configuring my UA settings for this connection. For the name, I'm just going to call this OmniServer UA for simplicity. And we're going to keep the defaults for everything else. You'll notice that I could specify a username and password here. While we can require OmniServer to require that, it's not currently enabled. So it's not necessary for me to specify a username and password for this connection. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create New OPC Connection. Now you can see my connection listed here, but the status currently reads as faulted. So this is because we now need to go back to OmniServer and trust the security certificate of Ignition for OmniServer to accept the connection. So I'm going to minimize this, go back over to my OmniServer. Open the OPC UA settings, go into my endpoint, and then if I go to the client certificates, notice how Ignition OPC UA client's in the rejected section here. So all I need to do is highlight that, click the left button to add that to the trusted section, and then I'm going to click OK, and then you need to say yes so that OmniServer will go ahead and apply these changes now instead of waiting until the next time to run time. I'm going to click yes. Now we need to just go back over to ignition. So if we bring that up, it hasn't refreshed since we added those settings, so if you just click the edit button and then just save the changes quickly without making any changes, you'll notice it refreshes the status and now shows us as connected. So now I just want to add a few items from my OmniServer topic to a basic visualization window in Ignition Designer. So if I bring up Ignition Designer, I already have a project and a window configured. So I'm going to go ahead and open my project, my Designer. Just a few seconds. Sign in. Alright, and here's my window, so I'm going to open on that. My project with my window. I'm just going to open that up. Okay, so here's my window. I'm going to open my existing OmniServer window. And in the Cat Browser section over here on the left, next we're going to add a new folder. I'm just going to call that OmniServer, just to keep everything organized. So I'm going to add all the tags that I want to add for OmniServer to that folder. Okay. Like that, I'm going to go to Browse Devices. And here's my OmniServer. If I expand this to be too much. OmniServer, here's my topic, TPI data. If I expand that, notice that all those items that we saw earlier are available on my list. And scroll down until I find total G value for channel 2. OmniServer folder, and do the same thing for channel 2. So you can see what that looks like. Okay. So you can see that I'm already getting good data and changing values for the items from OmniServer. Now you can notice those are relatively small values. The precision for those values as transmitted from the TPI monitor and from OmniServer to Ignition is actually much higher than hundreds. So Ignition is rounding up. Once we add our numeric text fields, I'll show you how you can actually increase the precision that will be displayed on the window. So first, I just want to add a numeric text field to our window. So text field, add that. And I'm going to drag my total G value underscore channel 2 item to that field. And I'm going to do another one for the channel 3. That one. Okay, now to highlight those, down here in the Vision Property Editor, you'll notice Appearance and Decimal Format. If I want to increase the precision, I just need to click here at the end after the decimal point and add some additional pound hashes. So I'm going to add 2 more to increase the precision on that particular display. Enter. I'm going to do the same thing for this other display. And now you can see that that actually does increase the precision and more accurately display the values that are being passed to Ignition from OmniServer. So that's really all there is to it. This is just a simple example of how to integrate TPI vibration data with Ignition for visualization using the OmniServer for TPI solution path. You can see that connecting Ignition to OmniServer via OPC UA is straightforward and secure. OmniServer can easily be used with Ignition for integrating live data from not only TPI vibration monitors, but also scales, barcode readers, printers, wave bridges, sensors, RFID systems, intercom systems, and all of your quote-unquote other devices that aren't using a standard off-the-shelf protocol, but you have a protocol document that tells you how to communicate with them. Our tutorial video on setting up OPC UA and OmniServer is listed here, and you can get a free trial of OmniServer as well. As always, if you have questions beyond what either this video or the detailed guide answer, don't hesitate to reach out to our support team using the information provided.